But then becomes a superstar and jumps up 2 levels. You just never know, and that's what it's about. 2 kids I want to spotlight.
Yeah.
Two of your players I want to spotlight. And you and I spoke about them before. Morgan Roy. She's been in the Nationals for a few years now. She has some big boots to fill because her dad was an All-American and a Mr. Soccer here in the state of Michigan. She's headed off to Notre Dame, I believe, in the next year. And then Keely Titmus, who we interviewed a couple weeks ago, she's heading off to Penn State. And Keely right now is heading off to England to play with U17 national team. So those 2 players are 2 awesome human beings and awesome players that are part of your club and are going to be moving on to the next level. And I got to assume you don't want to take full credit for it, I know, but you have helped them immensely, I have no doubt.
Yeah, and I think what I love that you said the piece there of, like, we all know that they're ballers, right? But that's 2 awesome human beings too. And I think that's the cool thing of everybody roots for them because they are really cool. Had Morgan and Keely since the day I walked in the door here. And they're 2 that stand out all the time in terms of, wonderful personalities. They keep you on your toes because they love to dish it back, right? So I'll give them plenty of grief and they'll give it back. But, if we just separate them for a second, Morgan is one of those generational talents of, she does things that make you go, that is special. Like, you can't teach that, and, obviously she comes from a wonderful soccer family that pushes her and drives her. And, I think the cool thing is we've helped create an environment, but Morgan's the one who's done it, of she has separated herself and she's special. And obviously, she had offers from just about everyone in the country. And what a fit it is at Notre Dame with Nate, obviously another Michigan guy, right? So, what he's built there. And I think the cool thing is you watch them and you watch us and the style of play is very similar, right? And it's very, we're going to dominate the ball. We love scoring goals. We hate giving up goals, right? So it's that love of the game playing. So she'll be able to go in there and immediately seek to make an impact. Sure. And obviously she's going from being, an absolute stud to on a team of somebody that was a stud. Everyone was a stud on their team, right? So there's a little bit of an adaptation period there, but I have zero doubts that Morgan, as long as she wants it, she'll be a pro.
She'll find a way.
Yeah, she's a special kind of generational talent, and Keely's the same way in a very unique position that is, goalkeeper is so hard. Right, and it's cool because Keely's been a lifer at the club and has been, the kid she would play with all the different silo teams. She had a couple of years where she was struggling and she moved on to a different team and again trusted the process. And we've got a goalkeeper coach that just is special as well in Ryko. And he has produced, before that, he had Leah Wolf, who's at Utah Valley now, that was in the national team. Obviously Keely. Before that, Emma, who went to Butler and in her freshman year got 5 Big East Goalkeeper of the Week awards.
Wow!
In one season of her freshman year.
Wow! Freshman year.
There's something that he does that is pretty special. Right? And obviously, and on the boys' side as well, he sent multiple on MLS academies and kids that are going on to play at big colleges and stuff like that. So we're blessed to have a wonderful goalkeeper coach. But Keely she's an old school like soccer junkie as well, as is Morgan and a lot of our kids honestly. But she's watching the game and she's bringing stuff up about it, and she's giving little jabs when Newcastle lose or whatever it might be. But a lot of these kids are really, really soccer junkies, and those 2, it's cool because they lead by example, right? And they're who their teammates look to and mirror, right? And how they behave and how they act, and they're 2 wonderful role models, not just for the kids on their team, but for the little kids. I mean, we've got one of our 09s was hurt, and one of the things when she got hurt, her parents reached out and said, "Hey, we'd love to come because we want to watch Morgan." And it was like she wants to play like Morgan, and you're like, to create that's kind of what I in my head I was like, I want to be Alan Shearer, right? And then you're like, it's so cool to see that in a club level, right? At a young age of, hey, I want to be Morgan Roy, right? How cool is that? So it's been really cool to see that evolution and that kind of what you do actually does really, really matter, because these kids that are 9 through 14. You're who they hero worship, right?
They see you every week, and they see the time and the dedication you put in and the things that are being talked about. Yeah, that is great to see at a club level with the ages being so close.
100%.
Let me ask you something. You'd mentioned a lot of the girls, they watch soccer and come back and give you a little bit of banter. I have said this for 20 plus years now. There's not enough soccer players watching soccer. Go home. It's so easy. Just go home and watch the EPL. Watch the MLS. Watch La Liga. Whatever it is. Watch those professional teams play. Pick a player. Pick 2 players. See what they do in certain situations. Do you encourage that for them to go home and watch professional soccer, because they can pick certain things up from watching?
Absolutely, and it's so easy now. Like you said, it's
everywhere.
no matter. It doesn't matter what your parents subscribe to in terms of packages. Like, you can get games on YouTube. You can go to a friend's house. You can watch it everywhere and anywhere you look at. And not only that, but how cool is it that during the fall and some of the spring, by the way, we've got, major Division 1 programs all around us, right? And the Big Ten champions are a 20-minute drive away, right? So, you've got the last several, actually, because Michigan State, they're all here. You've got Oakland, you've got Detroit Mercy, and then that's just the Division 1. You've got so much more. But I think that's something always is, find a team to support and find a player that you want to replicate. And then, like you said, is don't take the whole game, right? Because I think for young kids that are not in the habit of doing it, that can be a little bit overwhelming. Is I got to sit down and watch 90 minutes, which is really 2 hours, and I got to really study this. It's no, you know what? 15 minutes.
Yep.
I'm just going to watch, hey, how does Tobin Heath move, right? When the center mid has the ball, right? What's her movement to come inside to get behind the back line? When she's stretching it wide? What's her relationship with the outside back? All those different pieces are so important, because that's what we tell them is you see it there, and then you bring it into practice and you gain confidence there, and then now you do it in games, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, where did that come from, right? And that's the cool thing is, it's one of the things I talk about with the kids all the time and the parents is like figuring out for you, is this sport a hobby or a passion? Right? And there's no wrong answer, by the way. Is you can play at a really high level and do really cool things when it's a hobby, but a passion will take you to somewhere different, right? And that's kind of ingrained, and you figure that out, and you can always add to it. But that's one piece of it. And our program is for those that it's a passion, right? And we're very upfront about that, and that's okay. And like I said, is we've had like very talented players that talent-wise would have been towards the top end of our top team that we've said it just doesn't. It's not quite a fit, and part of it is you're playing it more because it's a hobby. You've got to love it, because the grind that you're going to put in here. College, national team, and if you want to go beyond, you got to be ready for that, and you got to love the process. Because the end result, I mean, you've played, I've played. It's when you actually win something, it lasts for like a minute, and then you're like, oh, that was it, right? But it's all those days and those nights and things. That's where the memories come from. Is and there's a lot of times where you didn't want to do stuff, but you did it, and that's why you got to lift the trophy. But you got to love it. You got to love it. Speaking
of the grind, speaking of a little bit of the process, the Nationals have, I don't want to say teamed up, but are working with Aaron Bird in Next Level Training. Aaron Bird is known throughout the country as one of the top trainers. His Next Level Training is just renowned for what they do. I'm certain you're going to tell me that that's helped, just having the kids go to him and Next Level Training.
Yeah, absolutely. Funnily, when I moved up here, Aaron was one of the first people to reach out to me. And it was, hey, I'd heard of him because in Cincinnati there was a young lady called Malia Berkeley. That ended up going to Florida State. She now plays at the North Carolina Courage, but she came up and she trained with him all the time. So I'd heard the name, but wasn't very familiar with him. And it was one of those like, okay, private trainers reaching out. All right, he said, come out, watch some of the stuff. I'd love to meet you. Right, went out and watched him, and he had some pros, and it was kind of in that COVID bit of everyone was kind of, what can we do? All right, and he's like, I got to provide something for my kids, and we'll do it. And went out, and it was like, no, this guy's good, right? You can tell just immediately, right? And not only that, it was the stuff he does, but the respect he had from all those pros as well that were instantly like, we come here because of him, right? Because of what he does. And so it was, we pretty quickly started talking about, hey, but just soccer and life. And it was like, so much of what we say lines up, and it's like, you've got a pretty special gift, and we're pretty awesome at what we do. Is how do we find a way to make this work? Because so many of our kids go to Bird anyway, right? And it's one of those, and they continue to. They do more than just our thing. So it was like, all right, well, how we want to play is distinct. No one, and I can say this with full confidence, that no one else in the city, really the state, tries to play the way we do, and that's okay, right? There's nothing wrong with that. It's just how we've chosen to. This is what we're going to go for, right? And he is such a crucial part of that, and him and Scotty and all his trainers, they do such a good job of the technical aspects, but within the framework of how we want to play, right? Because you have to be able to do this, and you've got to be able to read the triggers, and technically you have to have multiple options, because you know what? Nothing happens the same ever again in soccer. So it's, all right, you take a bad touch, that's no longer on. So you have to be able to protect the ball and hold on to it and then play, and it's got to be crisp and sharp. And, so we're on year 2 of this kind of partnership with him, where both of our GA blue and gray, so we have 2 teams in the girls academy. On the boys side, our ECNL and ECRL boys, so 2 on each side. They train with Bird once a week, every week, right? With him and his next level trainers. And it's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's part of the curriculum. It's not an opt-in, opt-out. It's everybody does it.
Yeah.
And it's been awesome.
I bet. You spoke about the level of respect that the pros have for him. A couple of weeks back, he invited me to a session where he had 40 players, and I believe 30 of them were professionals.
Awesome.
MLS, U.S. men's national team, NWSL, USL, you name it. They were here, and every time Aaron spoke, everybody stopped and they listened.
Yep.
And it was... I was here for probably 4 hours, and they were going non-stop. Mm-hmm. It was, for lack of a better term, soccer heaven for me.
Yeah.
The only thing that was missing was me playing, but I was invited to watch and just be part of it, and it was absolutely awesome to see. And you're not wrong. I guarantee the Nationals have benefited greatly from Aaron and Next Level Training, because, man, I love it. I think what you said there is you saw that he has a passion for the sport. He has a passion for training and teaching. Mm-hmm. And why not team up with someone who's got the only thing he has in his mind is the benefit of the kids.
Yep.
He wants to see the kids benefit and wants to see them progress. So why not?
Well,
I think it's a beautiful thing.
So many people as well that go, oh, well, if we partner with somebody, is that saying that we're not good at it? No. It's like, guess what? He's really good at it.
Yeah.
And he lines up with what we do. And we want our kids to have access to the best possible things. And the cool thing with the pro stuff too is, because he now gets to work with our kids every week, plus whatever they do. A lot of them go on Mondays, and they go on Fridays, and they go on the weekend, just like so many kids around this city do. But he's like able to give them the confidence as well. If it's another voice apart from us that goes, you know what, you could actually be a pro. And by the way, I've got a pro session. You come hop in with it. So our kids get that really cool opportunity of the guy who has all these people coming in, right? And obviously we've developed pros, so we're able to give them that information, and then now they hear it from somebody else, and now the belief starts. Right? And it's like, well, it's not just my coach saying that because he's my coach. It's this guy who actually has zero reason to have to say it, has said it. And now, guess what? Now I get to go train with these pros.
And compete in little training sessions against pros. I mean, you've got DeJuan Jones, Kellen Acosta, Jalen Howell, Michelle Cooper, all full professionals who you're training with, and doing little 4-on-4, 3-on-3 things, and then it's going to click in your players' heads that, wait a minute, I played in a game, and I'm not far off. I hung in there, and a little bit more work. This is possible.
Absolutely.
So that is, I absolutely applaud the Nationals and Aaron for you guys working together, and I think, I mean, no offense when I say this, but a lot of clubs and a lot of players should be looking at him, because, again, it's all about the players and benefiting and training them.
There's a lot of personal trainers around, and a lot of you can watch their videos and the kids are working hard, right? But it's Aaron and Next Level. The stuff directly translates to the game, and it makes you a better soccer player, right? It'll make you fitter, right? If you last through one of those sessions, But there's a lot of trainers that it'll make you fitter, okay? But I've heard this story multiple times of, you talk to national team coaches and they go, it's actually damaging a lot of times to go to private trainers. And people don't understand that, because if it's not somebody that's laser honed in on the technique, you're actually practicing the wrong thing, and now you're actually getting worse. Even though you're working hard and you're doing extra, but you're actually getting worse. So that's the tough part, is you got to really hone in on, hey, who does this trainer work with? Right? What are the results that have happened, and what is their repeat business? Right? And I think that's the big thing of, like you said, is it's not just the studs in Detroit, but it is full national team, men and women, international players that come here, that are not from here, some are, but that come here to train with him because he checks all of these boxes. And at the end of the day, one thing that's cool is I've never seen Aaron ask for anything in return. Right? He does it genuinely. Like, people promote him, but they promote him because they love him. Right? And that's the thing, is it's, he's never once asked us to promote him. We will promote him because we believe in him and he's part of our family. Right? But it's, at the end of the day, people want him to be successful and out there because of what he does. Yep. And those people flock because of it. So it's just one of those as well for parents and players is do your research. And the cool thing is everyone around here tells you there's one guy to go to.
Yep, exactly. All right, let's switch gears a little bit here. Newcastle United, currently sitting fourth in the Premiership.
Absolutely.
What a meteoric rise they've had this season. I don't think anybody expected them to do what they're doing right now. I certainly did not. I expected them to do well, but not fourth and pushing that Champions League spot. One, how did you become a Newcastle fan? And I mean, what do you think of Eddie Howe and the job he's done since he's been there?
Yeah, so being a Newcastle fan, I had zero choice in. Kind of like you with Villa is, that's where you're from, and you're
born into it.
Yeah, I mean, they take your blood and it comes out black and white, and you're like, oh, here we go, right? And for better or for worse. And so, I kind of grew up in the very tail end of the Kevin Keegan era, where it was the entertainers, and they'd win games 5-3 or lose 6-5. Yeah. They just wanted to attack, yep. And it's funny sometimes listening to those podcasts with Warren Barton and people, and they talk about we didn't even talk about defending. It was, hey, who's staying back this time because everybody's going, right? And then it was, I think I really fell hard in love with Newcastle during the Bobby Robson era of, because it was entertaining football, and it was, for anyone who's been to Newcastle, it's a one club city, and the stadium is kind of overlooks the town, but it's still in downtown, and it's not a joke when I say it's a religion. Right, it's what you think about, it's what you talk about, it's what you have on your lunchbox and your pajamas, and then you wear the shirt all the time, and you go, and it's called the cathedral for a reason, right? You go to church there, and it's been there was the Bobby Robson years, and we got to the knockout rounds of the Champions League, and we were flying, and then obviously an ownership change happened, and it was tough. Yeah, it was very. There was 2 relegations, and the sporting director that came in couldn't pronounce the players' names, and it was just there was still some special things that came in and some moments that were good. But
some tough years.
Yeah,
some real
and then
tough
it was
years.
You really got when the takeover was going to happen, it was, oh my goodness, and that was right during the beginning of COVID. Mm-hmm. I was one of those people that had a Zoom background with Kylian Mbappe in a Newcastle jersey, and it was here we go, and then it fell apart, and I got absolute dog's abuse for a long time.
I'm sure.
When it came back on, it was interesting because straight away the city became a better place because their thing was, hey, nope. And just the other day, for those that are in the know, they bought back Strawberry Place, which is basically, it was a piece of land across from the stadium that if the club used to own, and Mike Ashley sold, and they've just bought it back because it limited the expansion capacity. So St James's Park is like a 56,000 seater, and I think they want to get it up into the upper 60s and 70s because the demand is there.
Sure.
And us Geordies are a bit nuts, so everyone will go all the time. But they're doing that, and they're investing in the city, and they're making it better. And then I think the cool thing is they didn't do what the Man Cities did at the very beginning, which was you buy the Robinho and players like that and come in, and it didn't really work, right? And obviously they've done a tremendous job, and they've built all sorts of stuff. But they brought in Dan Burn, and
Dan Burn, Chris Wood,
and that's
players that are just average, good
steady
players,
Eddies,
but steady steady professionals who aren't going to set the world on fire. And you thought, sorry to cut you off, but you thought, what are they doing here? You've got all the money in the world, and you do. But holy hell, has it worked?
Well, and you look at Nick Pope, $4 million. He's given up 11 goals in the whole Premier League season. You go, Dan Burn was super cheap and untraditional, right, type of defender. Trippier they got for like 10 million from Atletico. Yep. So it was they didn't go and splurge these crazy money. Now, they spent 30-40 million on Bruno and Isak and things like that. But it's the thing that makes you go, holy cow, what Eddie Howe's done is, they're now able to play on the front foot in quite a few games. Still, when you play, Arsenal or people like that, it's nope, we're going to try and survive. Yep. And they've done that, and that'll obviously continue to change. But when you look at the lineup any given day, it is 7 or 8 people that were there pre-Eddie Howe.
I was going to say the players he's taken that he inherited and has made them better. Miguel Almiron, for one.
Transformation.
He was terrible under Steve Bruce, and you just thought, what a waste of a player here, so athletic. But he is just coming
Scoring
from
goals
MLS and
and
scoring
everything.
goals and become a real force on that right side for Newcastle.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing, and that was always the excuse before Eddie Howe as well. It's there's been no investment for 10 years. It's championship level players. They're not good enough, and then it shows you the value of a coach that believes in his players, right? Because that was he came in straight away and said, "We're going to make us better." Right, and then we'll bring in people that will help us, but we're going to make us better. And it's shown, still to this day, players are still playing that were told they were just championship players. And they've invested. You look at, they brought in Sven Botman, the really young Dutch centre back that hasn't lost a game that he's played in for Newcastle, and he's he looks like the next Paulo Maldini. So it's really cool. You can tell the pieces that they've brought, and everyone goes, "Oh, you know what? You guys are sniffing Champions League. Someone big's going to come in. You're going to do what Chelsea did, right? To make sure you get Champions League." And you go, "Okay, they brought in Gordon from Everton, who's probably a project long-term player. And he might make it, he might not. We don't know, right? And we all hope he does. But he's got those Newcastle qualities of the Maverick, and a dribbler and things like that. He's got the questionable attitude at times, but it's a question of how will he work out? But that's all they did.
But he's not expected to step in and work wonders right now.
Exactly. And it's Callum Wilson was a free transfer. Right. It's like St. Maximin, I think, cost like £4 million or something insane. But so there's all these players that just he's transformed, and it shows you the value of the coach. And I think it's really cool. I don't know if you've ever listened to the High Performance podcast.
I've heard of it, but I have not listened to it.
Oh, it's brilliant, and it's run by a guy who's at the BBC, does a lot of the commentary for soccer, and does Formula One as well.
Okay.
And then his co-host is a guy called Damien Hughes, who's actually a sports psychologist. And he's written books like The Barcelona Way and things like that. So they have a really good way and they bring in guests from every walk of life. People that have climbed Everest, and people that have created cures for diseases, and footballers and all sorts of stuff. And, they brought Eddie Howe in, and it was, you just listened to it and you were like, what a guy. You want to be friends with him, because it's just that he cares about it and he loves it, and that's what Newcastle craves. So obviously the city's rallied around it, and it's funny when you listen to the media elsewhere. They're like, well, if they get into the Champions League, are they going to fire Eddie Howe and bring in this? And I was like, you might get a riot if you did that. Because the city loves him, and he's really good, and he's young, and he's English, and it's just It's been
a pleasant surprise to see Eddie Howe take the team that you have and do what he's doing, because there's a lot of clubs who passed on him, clubs who didn't want to interview him, clubs who just said, he was good with Bournemouth, but there's other managers out there. So it's great to see. For me, if Arsenal don't win the league, and I do not care how Man United do, this isn't an offense or a jab at them, but if Eddie Howe gets Newcastle into the Champions League, he's manager of the year for me.
Has to be.
But if Arsenal win the league, I think Arteta
will get it,
might pip him there, because both managers young managers who have brought their own style in and demanding the best from their players, and have transformed those clubs in my opinion.
The runaway 1 and 2, for sure.
Yeah. And I think next year we could see Man City. Who knows what's going to happen then?
Yeah.
Next year, I think 1 and 2 will be Arsenal and Newcastle, and we'll see how that finishes. But those two clubs have just transformed themselves with these two managers.
Yeah,
it's brilliant to see.
And that's the cool thing is, again, the Premier. You look at in the Premier League, it's like the level of managers, the level of teams. It's no longer if the top 6 weren't on TV, where it's like, well, I don't know if I'll watch because it could be kind of boring. Now it doesn't matter. I mean. Now as well, you look all the way down. Now we're tuning into Wrexham games, right? Who are in non-league, so the 5th tier, and it's watching them take it to Sheffield United from the Championship, and should have won. It's like, what a cool we talk about how much the sport's grown here in America, but around the world, it's that is the 5th tier.
Yeah,
that's the 5th tier.
That 5th tier team would come here and beat some MLS teams.
Absolutely.
But then there are some 1 or 2 MLS teams I think could really go and beat a Premiership team or two and compete in the Championship consistently.
I agree.
The level of soccer around the world has gone up. It's awesome to see. All right, David, it has been an absolute pleasure. We could do this all day. We may have to do this again very soon.
Sounds good to me.
So thank you very much for joining us. I really appreciate it. What you and the Nationals have done is phenomenal to see. The players you're producing, it's great to see. I'm a fan. We will continue to to keep tabs and watch. And please continue doing what you're doing, man. It's fun to watch.
I appreciate that, and thanks for having me on, and thanks for everything you and this program obviously do for all levels of sport in Detroit, because it's a special city with a special culture, and you guys promoting that is a big piece of it. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Cheers.